God, when I saw those men go into sujood, that position where they placed their foreheads on the ground, I couldn't move. I just stood there. I've been on stages in front of thousands, and I've been on my knees alone in the dark. But there's one thing I saw that, man, I'll never forget it. I remember standing there in a quiet little corner of the world, just watching a group of Muslims pray. Now listen, I done seen folks pray before. I grew up in the church. I've seen pastors shout. I've seen people cry. I've seen hands lifted high, music playing, the whole room filled with fire and spirit. But this was different. There wasn't no music. There wasn't no lights, no crowd, no camera, no noise. Just a line of men, side by side, shoulder to shoulder, like brothers in formation. And when the call to prayer came, man, it was like time stopped. That voice echoed through the air, soft but powerful. You didn't have to understand the words to feel it. It wasn't just a call to prayer, it was a summons to peace. And I remember thinking, now hold on, what kind of devotion makes a man stop everything he's doing 5 times a day just to bow before his Lord? They faced one direction toward Makkah. All at once, like a heartbeat, they moved, hands folded, heads lowered. And then they went down to the ground, their foreheads touching the floor. And right there, that image burned itself into my mind, because you don't see that kind of humility in this world no more. Not in a time where everybody's trying to stand taller than the next man. But here were grown men, powerful men, fathers, workers, leaders, putting their faces to the earth, not because they were weak, but because they knew who they were bowing to. And I tell you, man, that right there changed something in me. At first, I didn't understand what was happening. No one was speaking English. I couldn't follow the words. But I could feel it, that peace, that surrender. The man beside me had his eyes closed, whispering something under his breath, tears just barely touching his cheek. And I thought, he's talking to God like he knows him, like he sees him. I realized then, Muslims don't just pray, they meet God 5 times a day, every day. Whether they're rich or poor, happy or broken, they stop. They leave the world outside, wash up, and they step into presence. You ever seen a man wash his hands, his face, his feet, and you can tell it ain't just water? It's like he's cleaning off the world before he goes to talk to his creator. That's what I saw, and I couldn't take my eyes off it. See, in my life, I prayed plenty, but not like that, not with that discipline, that quiet, that consistency. And I thought to myself, Lord, maybe that's what I've been missing. Not the belief I've always believed, but that structure, that rhythm, that commitment. Because these folks, they don't pray when life gets hard. They pray because it's who they are. They don't wait for Sunday morning. They don't wait for a sermon or a song. They just stop wherever they are and say, God, you're still greater than anything I'm facing. And I tell you, that's powerful. When you see a man bowing in the dirt while the world around him keeps moving, you realize he's the one who's truly free. Now, I ain't gonna lie, I got emotional watching it. I ain't Muslim, but I felt something. It was like the silence itself had a heartbeat. And I said to myself, Steve, all your life you've been running from moment to moment, show to show, trying to fix this, chase that. But when was the last time you just stopped? That's what hit me hardest. These brothers, they pause for God 5 times a day. Imagine that while we out here saying, man, I don't even have time to breathe. They're saying, no, I'm going to make time for the one who gave me breath. That's why when they walk out after prayer, you see peace on their faces. They ain't rushing, they ain't distracted, they just steady. And I realize that's the fruit of obedience, because when you honor God in private, he gives you peace in public. And let me tell you something. It ain't just the men. I saw little boys praying right beside their fathers. Saw women with their heads covered, whispering verses so softly you could feel the reverence in their voice. It was a whole community of worship, not performance, not ritual for show, just faith. And I thought, this is how you build generations that don't forget who they are. Because a child that grows up watching his daddy bow to God, that's a child that learns humility early. That's a home where gratitude ain't just spoken, it's shown. And I'll be honest, after that day, I couldn't shake the feeling. It followed me home. It followed me on stage. It followed me when I laid down at night. And I started wondering, what would happen if every one of us, no matter our faith, just took a few moments each day to stop, to bow, to thank? Wouldn't the world be softer? Wouldn't we be kinder? Because when you see Muslims pray, you realize this ain't about religion versus religion. It's about remembrance. It's about humility. It's about never forgetting who you belong to. You know, I kept thinking about that moment, that sound of the adhan, the call to prayer, just kept ringing in my mind. Now, you got to understand, I've heard music from all over the world. I've been to concerts, I've stood next to gospel choirs that could make the whole building shake. But that call, that voice floating through the air at sunset, it wasn't entertainment, it was invitation. And what it was inviting you to was peace. Man, when that sound hits the air, everything else feels small. The traffic, the noise, your worries, all of it just fades. And in that moment, I understood something I never understood before. Muslims don't pray because life is easy. They pray because life is not. And that hit me hard. I've been through some storms. I've lost jobs, lost friends, made mistakes big enough to fill books. And when you've been down there, when you've cried till your chest hurts, you start looking for something real. And that day watching them pray, I thought, this right here, this is real. Because there was no audience, no applause, no performance. It was just them and God. When I saw those men go into sujood, that position where they placed their foreheads on the ground, I couldn't move. I just stood there.